Ukrainian soldiers traveling in the vehicle ambushed by a Russian FPV drone. The drone was on the road waiting for the soldiers to pass. Ukrainian soldiers tried to shoot down the drone but failed. The drone began to follow them. They try to get away from the drone as fast as they can in a panic. But the drone is faster than the vehicle. But luckily, the Russian FPV drone missed its target. Ukrainian soldiers narrowly escaped the attack. Ukraine's 414th Hungarian Birds UAV Brigade identified a Russian soldier attempting to move across Ukrainian positions in the Zaporizhia region. An FPV drone was immediately deployed in response. Upon noticing the drone, the Russian soldier attempted to engage it, but the response came too late. This time, Russian soldiers came under the surveillance of Ukrainian drones. While advancing in a vehicle, they were close to being targeted in a drone ambush. However, one of the Russian soldiers successfully intercepted the drone, narrowly preventing the attack. A Russian soldier hiding in a shack in the Zaporizhia region was directly targeted with a fiber optic drone strike. Ukraine's 5th Assault Brigade identified 2 Russian soldiers traveling on a motorcycle in the Dnipro region. The soldiers were forced to halt after encountering an accident on the road. At that moment, a Ukrainian FPV drone approached and deployed an explosive before the soldiers could react. Both soldiers were neutralized at the scene. July 23, 2025. A notable incident took place following an operation by Ukrainian forces in a wooded area. The event served as visual evidence highlighting the difficult conditions faced by the opposing Russian forces. A Russian soldier witnessed his comrade being injured during a drone attack on their position. His goal was to protect himself from further attacks and survive. However, upon reaching the entrance of the shelter, he was forcefully stopped by another soldier from the same unit. The soldier firmly shouted at the wounded man, ordering him not to approach the shelter entrance. He then physically pushed him to the ground. While the wounded soldier was lying on the ground in pain, the other soldier struck him multiple times and shouted harsh words. He then drew his weapon and warned, "If you keep coming, I'll fire." The most disturbing detail was that the attacking soldier intentionally left his wounded comrade outside the shelter. At the time, it was known that Ukrainian FPV tactical drones were continuing to scan the area and identify new targets. The wounded soldier remained exposed and vulnerable just outside the shelter, effectively left in harm's way. Because he was not brought into the shelter, he was unable to receive assistance and became a direct target of a subsequent strike. In the latest FPV tactical drone operation carried out by Ukrainian forces, the Russian soldier who had been pushed away from the shelter sustained critical injuries from the explosion. Despite his condition, he attempted once more to reach the shelter. However, the other soldier remained unyielding and refused to allow him inside. Shortly afterward, the wounded soldier succumbed to his injuries. This tragic act of abandoning an injured comrade highlights the growing war fatigue and psychological strain within the ranks of the Russian military. 2 Ukrainian soldiers engage a group of Russian soldiers with gunfire. In response, one of the Russian soldiers launches an explosive device toward the Ukrainian position. However, seconds later, Ukrainian artillery fire strikes the opposing shelter. A significant number of opposing forces were identified in the area. Ukrainian reconnaissance units conducted a coordinated operation with artillery units targeting a group of Russian soldiers advancing in an armored vehicle. After moving through the forest in an armored vehicle, the opposing soldiers dispersed across the terrain. The opposing soldiers immediately took up positions. Their objective was to eliminate the presence of Ukrainian forces in the area. However, the artillery units began delivering precise strikes on the positions of the opposing forces. As the enemy soldiers moved in disarray, an unmanned aerial vehicle also provided support to the artillery units. The drones began to swiftly target the opposing forces by releasing precision-guided munitions. Shortly thereafter, many of the enemy personnel were taken out of action. The Russian soldiers, whose positions were struck, were forced to retreat. 2 Russian soldiers are spotted by Ukrainian observation drones in an abandoned village. Shortly thereafter, it becomes clear that the soldiers are using a building as a shelter. Ukrainian forces closely monitor their movements. A thorough scan is conducted to determine if additional personnel are present besides the 2 identified soldiers. When no further activity is detected, the first strike is executed using an FPV tactical drone. The FPV drone initiates its first strike on the structure where the soldiers had taken cover. Immediately afterward, a coordinated follow-up attack is launched. During the second strike, a significant explosion occurs at the enemy shelter. A third FPV tactical drone is then deployed to target the heavily damaged building. The drone operator guides it through the doorway, and a powerful explosion follows. After the final strike, no further signs of opposing forces are observed in the area. These coordinated attacks by Ukrainian forces left no opportunity for resistance and fully neutralized the target. A Ukrainian FPV drone spotted a Russian soldier alone in the open. Upon noticing the drone, the soldier appeared visibly alarmed and unsure of how to respond. He attempted to escape multiple times, but quickly realized it was futile. Despite his visible distress and gestures toward the drone, his efforts did not prevent the drone from completing its mission. The Ukrainian 414th UAV Brigade, known as the Mogwa Birds, tracked a Russian soldier using an FPV drone, maintaining steady surveillance throughout the operation. The Russian soldier ran with all his strength in an attempt to escape the drone, but his efforts ultimately fell short. New footage has just been released from the Flying Skull team showing the elimination of an enemy combatant in an open field. Despite attempts to flee, the individual was unable to evade the strike. Ukrainian drone operators once again demonstrated exceptional skill and precision in a high-stakes environment. FPV drone operators from Okiv, part of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, conducted a targeted drone strike on Russian positions at the Kinbrin Spit. The drones targeted locations where Russian soldiers were using abandoned houses as shelters, delivering precise and effective strikes on those positions. Ukrainian Signum Battalion's fiber optic FPV drones targeted and disabled Russian artillery positions. One by one, artillery batteries positioned in the Lyman direction were hit with precision, demonstrating the increasing impact of drone warfare on the modern battlefield. Despite Russian efforts to carefully camouflage their artillery systems, they were unable to evade the skilled detection and maneuver tactics employed by Ukrainian drone operators. The Signum drone team, operating under the Ukrainian Armed Forces, tracked a vehicle belonging to opposing forces. It was identified as a UAZ 39094 type transport truck. The vehicle was heavily loaded, carrying both personnel inside and a full tank of fuel. The second target was the famous Russian Bohunka minibus. It had reached a checkpoint but did not leave. After the attack, the vehicle was reduced to ashes, a one-time transportation story. The third target was a speeding Niva. It tried to escape, looking fast and determined, but it was too slow for the drone's targeting system. The drone fatally cut off the speeding ticket. The final scene featured a Kamaz truck hidden deep within a dense pine forest. Interestingly, a hammock was set up right next to it, perhaps a soldier was resting there, dreaming of escape or capture. But the Ukrainian drones had other plans. Instead of arrest, they offered him a one-way vacation ticket. No return. 2 Russian soldiers were observed outside their trench near the village of Torsky in the Donetsk region. At the same time and location, 2 Ukrainian soldiers were carrying out a reconnaissance mission in the nearby forest. The soldiers unexpectedly encountered each other, leading to an exchange of fire. The Ukrainian troops deployed several grenades toward the shelter and engaged with small arms fire. After the brief but intense clash, the Russian soldiers ultimately chose to surrender.